Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Paid to Travel, the UGC podcast. I am here today with Jaclyn from Bento. If you have listened to the podcast at all or are a student of mine or follow me on Instagram, you've probably heard me talk about Bento. I have been using Bento for the past 3 months as a UGC creator, and basically it is like a pitching platform for creators. So you can find email contacts, you can have your whole like email management system set up in there. It is great. I rave about it. I love it. So I reached out to Jaclyn, and she is just going to give us the lowdown on Bento, how to utilize it well, and then kind of pitching tips for creators. So it's going to be a really value-packed episode. So buckle up for that. But Jaclyn, I'm so happy to have you on the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. No, I'm excited.
And could you give us just a little bit of an intro into who you are and what Bento is?
Yes, of course. So first of all, thanks for having me. I am the co-founder and CEO of Bento. And as you mentioned, Bento is a pitching platform to help content creators, UGC creators, influencers, kind of any freelance business owner reach directly out to brands so that you can own your relationships and build more sustaining businesses. My background for the last 10 years, I've pretty much been building a variety of different tech startups. So I've always been in the tech startup world since I graduated school, and my role has kind of ranged from product and sales to partnerships. But most of my 10 years has been related to landing partnerships with brands, doing B2B sales, and putting together these like go-to-market and sales motions. So a lot of my experience is like, how do you reach out to brands? How do you build relationships? How do you sell? How do you negotiate? And how do you use software to help scale that up? And so all of kind of my experience is really kind of accumulated into this tool now that I can bring and share with people who were like me, who basically like didn't really know how to run a proper sales process and didn't know that there were tools out there to help you automate a lot of that, and bringing it and making it more accessible to creators and founders.
I love that. So, okay, before I started using Bento, I was using kind of another platform that helps with outreach, sourcing leads, kind of having like a email flow with follow-ups and stuff like that. And I am curious kind of what sets Bento apart from other platforms like that, and what was kind of the gap in the softwares that you were seeing, and how is Bento kind of filling the needs of creators?
Yeah, great question. So when I have built sales processes in the past, we usually do it with big software companies like Salesforce or HubSpot or Apollo. And these are tools that were typically made for enterprises, people who have large teams. And when we started to look at what needed to exist for an individual creator or an individual freelancer, it was a lot more lightweight and almost combine your entire workflow. So not just the database of contacts, not just setting up your email sequencing, and not just your CRM, but like all of it in one. And so we basically wanted to create an all-in-one tool where you get the email contacts, you can set up your email sequences and your follow-ups, and you can track it in a CRM, but at the cost, like a fraction of a cost of one of those tools that would exist for a business. So combination of an all-in-one tool, but also just the price point so that it can be more accessible to like an individual creator.
Yeah, that's what I really like about Bento, because I was using one of those like bigger softwares before, and it was helpful, but it was very clunky and very obviously not built for me and like
Yeah,
what I was
exactly.
doing. And it's so nice to just have everything in one place as a creator. And so you can have like all of your data in terms of what are your response rates. You can kind of parse them into different categories of like, these are collaborations I'm currently working on, or these are, ones that I'm currently in discussion with. And I really like that I can have one place where I have all that info. Like I used to just track all of that in a Google Sheet.
Exactly.
It's really nice to have that in the platform.
Exactly. Yeah. We try to automate as much of that as possible. And really, it came directly from conversations with creators and me asking them, like, what are you doing today? And when people would show me, they would manually track every single pitch they sent. I'm like, that's crazy. Like every IGDM you send, every cold email you send, you're manually putting this into a spreadsheet and then manually updating if somebody responded or when you should follow up. And I'm like, this is such a clear use case for software to automate this. And so being able to just like log in with your Gmail and then us being able to help you automate just tracking who you've pitched to, who you should follow up with, Q4 is coming up, who should we repitch to? And so this is kind of our vision, is really to help automate as much of that workflow as possible so that you can get a sales motion going without having to think too much.
I love that. I love just like when a smart woman comes in and just like, I know what needs to happen here. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So I've been using Bento for 3 months now, and kind of also been recommending it to my students and been testing out that flow with them, and everyone's been really, really liking it. So personally, I have the VA version of Bento. So basically, for anyone who's listening and like doesn't know, they have kind of like an AI VA system. And so they send out 300 to 400 cold pitches for me every month. It's all automated. There's templates. I don't have to do any legwork, which is amazing. And then it's just my job to kind of reply to the responses that I get to those pitches, which is great. So I've been having those go out for the past 3 months. So June, July, August. And so far I've signed over $3,000 worth of deals from those Bento pitches. So
Amazing. That's exciting.
yeah, and I do this very, very part-time. So like UGC isn't necessarily my full-time job. And so Bento has been really nice just to have something that is working in the background for me. And I can kind of reply to the responses that I want to, and I don't have to spend a bunch of like upfront legwork time sending those pitches or worrying about who I'm pitching to, finding brands, all of that. So if you are a current creator kind of in that similar space where you're like, I want to do UGC, but I just don't have the time to be sending out all these pitches, or you just don't want to, highly recommend the VA version. It is great. Cannot recommend enough. For me, I think I have it at like a $50 a month price point. I know that will probably change over time, but I just like did the math because analytics, but it was like a 22 times return on my investment. So if
There we go.
worth it, yeah, it's worth it.
Thank you for that recommendation. It's so great to hear. I think you are exactly the type of profile person who benefits from the VA, which is someone who you're either doing it full-time or part-time, but you don't have the time and effort to put into pitching. It's so time consuming and you just want to kind of set it and forget it. And you're someone who that this is one part of your workflow. It's great to help automate that part of it. I know a lot of people, what they were doing before using the VA is they were hiring a virtual assistant, hiring someone overseas. And, you might spend $500-$600 a month on someone to do that for you. When you can get it at like a fraction of the cost at $50 a month with Bento. So that's really what we're trying to replace for you, is that person you might have hired to do it for you manually, but doing it at a fraction of the cost for our creators.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. Okay, so to get into some kind of advice, tips for creators, one question that I have, and I feel like this is just something you probably have so much insight on. So I'm sure you see a lot of UGC creators and their pitches. In your opinion, what stands out to you in terms of creators who are successful with their pitches and with UGC and those who aren't? So like, are there commonalities that you see between successful creators, and like what stands out to you of like an amateur versus experienced creator?
Yeah. So there's a ton. So I'll bucket into the pitch, the initial outreach, and then the post outreach, because I actually find that I see the biggest difference between after you hear back from a pitch, how a more mature and experienced creator handles things versus an earlier creator. So, I think portfolios, like number one, I'm sure you see a ton of portfolios. And just if you think about a brand that's going to get a cold email, I think what people forget is that they don't spend a lot of time on your email. They probably give you 3 or 4 seconds to quickly skim your email and click one link. And so whatever link they're creating, the first impression you're giving is super important. And so I see a lot of portfolios that are just kind of all over the place, or it's actually just hard to find what you're looking for. So if I'm like a brand and I'm a beauty brand and I click on a link and I can't even tell actually which video is a beauty video, I'm not going to spend the time and watch 6 videos to see if there's one that fits for me.
Yep.
So there's a difference between a creator who kind of can put themselves in the shoes of the brand. And like, if this brand comes on my page, are they going to find exactly what they're looking for? And is what they're looking for like aligned with their brand? So really great creators, they might have different portfolios for different types of pitching that they do. Maybe they have a travel portfolio, maybe they have a lifestyle portfolio, or they're different tabs in the website. So just even helping them sell themselves better, because they recognize that every brand is different and the needs of a brand is you're trying to sell to the needs of the brand.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the actual pitch, I think that a lot of creators sound the same these days because to be honest, like the barrier to getting to UGC is quite low, right? Like all you need to do is have some products at home, film a few videos and put them on a portfolio.
Yep.
And so you have to stand out by figuring out what is unique about you, either about the way you look, either about the way you edit videos, either the way you sell, or either like the types of brands you've worked with and the results you've gotten. So I think a lot of creators struggle with this, but you really need to find what is that thing about you. So some creators have really great case studies with brands, and it's like they know that they can sell apps. And so just like lean into that. Some creators have a unique look, and maybe it's like the age they are, and that's why they can sell like vitamins really well. My thing personally is like I'm just good at recreating like a video that's done really well for a competitor brand. So that's just my thing. So that's in my pitch. Like I'm really good at, if you want me to recreate a viral video from your competitor, I can do that for you. And so figure out what that is for you. And that's your unique selling proposition. And you need to put that in your email and be clear. Everyone is saying the same thing. And so you need to find that different thing that's going to help you stand out.
I love that. Yeah, I feel like for me, the big things that I lean on are case studies. And that's because I've been doing this for so long.
Totally.
I have great client results. I know that. I can prove that. And then my lifestyle. So like I have a camper van. I travel.
Exactly.
That is very much my life. And I am curious your opinion on this because I get asked a lot, like, do I need to niche down? Like, that's a big question that I get. And I usually tell people, like, you are your niche. And I know that's kind of cliche, but like, it's about who's your demographic and like
exactly
who you sell to. That's what matters, not what brands are you working with and what category. It's more like, because I'm a travel outdoor creator, but I have worked with brands in every single category.
Yes.
Because I can market to that certain demographic no matter what the product is.
Exactly. And I think that's when someone says niche down, it doesn't mean you only need to do beauty products. It just means that figure out what your unique selling proposition is, and you can just find different pockets of brands in different niches that you can sell to in that. Mm-hmm. I think the problem is that when people try to say, I'm a no niche and I can do literally every type of video and I can work with every type of brand, that doesn't speak to any individual brand. And so no one's going to buy, right? And so that's just a typical, it's just like, I think marketing sales 101 is like, the more it feels like what you're selling is tailored to that brand, the more likely that brand's going to buy. Mm-hmm. But that just means that you can just have many different pitch templates and use that to speak to different types of brands, right? So I don't think you need to niche down, but I think you need to really figure out what's unique about you and then reframe that for the different types of brands that you pitch to. To kind of add a little bit about kind of what sets more experienced creators apart and earlier creators after the pitching process, I think there's definitely a couple things I see. I think just communication style. I think actually when I see a creator respond to a brand, I actually probably don't even need to look at their background to know whether this is an early creator or not. Mm-hmm. The first email someone sends is pretty clear if they know what they're doing versus they've heard some advice online and they're trying to copy it, but they don't really know what to say or what to offer, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's very easy to just take a template and then respond back to a brand. So I think, a lot of common advice is asking a little bit more about the deliverables first before trying to offer rates. And I think in many cases that is the right thing, but then I think you have to kind of read the room a bit. You have to kind of read and understand, what is this brand looking for? Is this a brand that's trying to get something out the door quickly because they have a deadline next week? Okay, we don't have time to have that dance, right? Like they just want someone easy and quick to work with. And so you just need to give them exactly what they're looking for. So it's really about reading the room, I think, when it comes to communicating with a brand. And I think more experienced creators kind of know who they're dealing with on the other end and how to deal with them in a timely manner. And so I think just experience-wise, it's like being quick, it's being direct, it's kind of like giving them more than they've been asked for, right? So I think a lot of times brands will be like, what's your rate for this 60-second video? And kind of the more experienced creators will upsell and, sell a bundle or, sell whitelisting and just more things that can add value to your brand partners. And so it's really about just how do you navigate conversations in a way to upsell and make sure that you're adding value to your brand partners.
Yeah, totally. I think upselling and negotiation are just total skills that you learn along the way. And it absolutely like changes your communication with brands and the deals that you're landing. And I hear from brands all the time, like, oh, what makes you want to work with a creator again? Or what's a good experience with a creator? And so many of them just say like communication, like if they
100%.
are quick to reply, easy to work with, like, yeah.
It's such an underrated skill because I work with like lots of creators every single month on our own content.
Yeah.
And, the thing that a lot of creators don't know is that a high performing video is sometimes luck. It's just about the creator, right? And so also that you should know that if your video doesn't perform well, it could not be you. It really could be the brand's targeting strategy. They haven't figured out with the right targeting on ads. And so I prefer to just work with a creator who has really good communication skills and always hits deadlines. And I worked with enough creators to know that's actually not that standard. It's actually more on the uncommon end to have creators meet deadlines. So that definitely helps creators stand out.
No, I agree completely. And that's actually a conversation I have to have a lot with creators is like, not all of your videos are going to perform for a brand, and that is okay. Like you are not in any way expected to be perfect. Not all of your videos are expected to perform. Brands know that ads and social media, it's all about testing.
Exactly.
Testing is trial and error, it's volume. And you are one of many creators, and like your videos are a few of many that they are running and testing. And you're like, all your videos are not expected to be winners. And I think a lot of creators can get in their heads of like, oh, like I asked them for, the stats on this video and it just like wasn't great or whatever. And it's like, that's okay. And it's not always your fault. So there's things you can learn from that. So like if you're able to get data like your hook score and the watch score and click-through rate, like you can take that and analyze your video and be like, oh, like why did that hook not perform well? Who were they targeting, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of a balance of it's not always your fault and not all your content is expected to perform. And also with the data that you have, how can you compare it to your content and make it better over time?
Exactly. And it takes time to learn and improve. And that's not just for the videos that you put out there, but everything about your business, your portfolio, your pitch email, the niches, like all of that is an iteration process. And I find that a lot of creators give up too soon. A lot of creators really like get, demotivated when something doesn't work out or they don't hear back from a brand right away or one of their videos doesn't perform. But, like any business, it takes time and it takes effort to really build something to something more sustaining.
If you've ever said, I want to inspire people to travel, then I hate to break it to you, but you're probably inspiring nobody. I'm Laura, and I host the Travel Creator Podcast, the only podcast on the internet made for travel content creator growth. And I'm here to let you know that when you tell your entire internet community you want to inspire them to travel, they already know that. And it's kind of a byproduct of sharing what you already love. So when you talk to everybody, you're talking to no one. So my tip for you today is to get really clear on what kind of traveler you are trying to talk to, because the way you talk to a budget traveler is very different from the way you talk to a luxury traveler. And the same goes for UGC. You wouldn't send the same pitch to a $16 a night hostel in Mexico than you would a luxury resort in Japan. Do you know what I mean? Over on the Travel Creator Podcast, we get really nitty-gritty on what's working for travel content creators. I'll see you over there.
Do you have stats on like the average response rate to cold email pitches that you see, like either on your platform or just industry average? So like if I am sending cold email pitches, like what is the expected response rate from brands in terms of like, if I pitch 100 brands, how many should I expect to hear back from?
Yeah. So there's like industry standard of like just cold emailing in general. Typical like, industry rates is 1% to 2% response rate. So that's like pretty standard from when back in my day when I was like building other software tools and selling to businesses, 1% to 2% response rate is pretty standard. Creator pitching is actually much higher. So we see typically between 8 to 10% as a response rate. And keep in mind, it doesn't mean it's a positive response rate, but that doesn't matter. Like response rates being 8 to 10% is extremely high. In kind of the top creators on our platform who pitch and have really strong pitch templates, we see somewhere between 20 and 25% response rate, which is extremely high.
That's amazing. And then do you know, like, of those responses, and I know this wildly comes down to how good the creator is at negotiating and all the communication, is there like a standard of how many deals are being secured?
Definitely no standard. It's so varied. It's so varied. It's very across everything, right? Are you influencer? Are you a UGC creator? Do you do both? What country are you in? What's your offering, etc. I would say it's such a huge range. It's hard to say the number of deals I get done every single month.
Yeah. No, I agree. When people ask me that question as a coach, I'm like, I don't really have an answer for you on that.
It's also sometimes to do with effort, right? Like I remember my first month of trying, I was like so excited. And I probably closed like a dozen, partnerships in a month. And then now I'm like, I just don't pitch that much anymore. So maybe I'll do like one or two. So it's like, it's also to do with effort. Yeah,
totally. And I think this is a common roadblock for a lot of creators because they're getting into it. They're sending a ton of pitches and they're like, I am sending hundreds of pitches and I got like 2 deals. And I'm like, yeah, that's normal. And I think like so many creators don't realize that that's normal and that like pitching a lot of the times is a numbers game, and these creators aren't familiar with the sales world and with pitching. But I think a lot of people really get down on themselves, and I get these messages from students all the time being like, I'm just feeling really discouraged. I've sent like 50 pitch emails this week, and I have to just sit them down and be like, so kindly, 50 is not a lot of pitches.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'm so sorry, but like, and I know that you're putting time and effort into this, and like, you just need to stick with this, and you need to like just keep pushing at it, and you're going to get better at pitching. You're going to get better at negotiating. You will close more deals over time, but like in the beginning, it's just tough, and you have to send way more pitches than you think that you do.
It's so true. And I think I didn't realize actually how this notion of sending so many emails is not common for a person who didn't come from a sales background, because I've done sales for so long, we used to send 10,000 cold emails a month.
Yeah.
And our sales cycle were months long. So a sales cycle is how long does it take to close a deal? I would have to actually send 10,000 emails, get on a sales call with a brand, get on a second sales call with a brand, and then go through a month of legal negotiations to close one deal. And so I might close one deal after 2 months, and that's 10,000 emails. And so the idea that you can send cold emails as a creator and you don't even have to get on a sales call and you can actually negotiate and close a deal in a few days is insane to me. It's actually so little effort. And so when I compare it to my experience, I'm like, this is actually really little effort you need to do to earn a meaningful amount of money. It feels very worth it. But I also recognize like if you don't come from a sales background, that kind of rejection and that feeling like you're doing a lot and not seeing a lot of return feels like it's a lot. But truly, yeah, 50 is not enough. And it takes time to build a whole sales process and pipeline. And the ROI is really strong. Like if you can make hundreds of dollars and all you have to do is send some emails, it's actually like not a lot. Yeah. And so sometimes I also think about it like, are you going to spend your time trying to build your personal brand and you're putting out videos out there hoping people are going to come inbound, that you can't even predict that. Whereas at least cold emailing, you can, if you have some stats and for every 300 emails you send, you're going to close one deal, that's a lot more predictable. And so it's really up to you on like, where you want to spend your time and effort. But I find it something that I think a lot of people need to be more educated on.
Agreed. And I do love that predictability aspect of it. And of course, numbers lie sometimes, and like you can't predict anything to the T, but I am a numbers girl and I love analytics and stuff like that. And so it's so nice for me to have that kind of aspect of my business, A, automated, and then B, just kind of knowing like, okay, if I send out this many pitches, here's how many I can expect to kind of land deals from that. And that's what I also try to teach my students of like, you can create systems and it can be reliable. You just need a few months of data to
Yes.
actually like back that up and track that. And it's going to take a little bit to build that. But once you have it, you just know.
Yeah,
It's nice.
Exactly. Yeah.
What tips can you give creators who feel like they have a low response rate and just like aren't sure how to increase their response rate? Like maybe they're newer in the UGC world, or even they've been doing this for a while and they're just like, I don't know, I have like a 4% response rate and I
Yeah.
don't know what I'm doing wrong. How can they improve their pitch?
Yeah. I think for anyone who has a low response rate, the changes that you should make should be big changes. So I think sometimes people say, yeah, I've tried different templates, but what did you change up a few words? Did you change up, one example? That's not going to significantly change your response rate. If you are at like the 3 or 4% response rate mark, I would try 3 different templates that are like radically different. Like one, maybe, it's just bullet points. Maybe one is just like 5 lines. Maybe one, it's like 3 paragraphs. Like try different styles and see what works better for you. Don't just change a couple words here and there and think that you made a change and you're expecting to see a big difference. So that's just kind of format wise. Obviously, if you're not sending follow-ups, so follow-ups is a huge way to increase your response rate. So if you're only sending 1 follow-up, try sending 2 follow-ups and try having the follow-ups be different. I've worked with creators where we've changed their follow-ups where, it's a pet template. So we send like a photo of like their dog in the follow-up, and that's obviously going to get a higher response rate. So just trying something creative and different, that's going to help you stand out. And then, I always say if you're getting a really low response rate, like under 1%, you might want to check your spam score. Yep. And so you might just do that by sending the email to a few friends that you've never emailed before and just seeing where your email lands. If it goes into spam, just asking them to like hit mark not spam. And if you do that enough, then it'll recover your email address.
Yes, that's something I teach in my program. I have like a module on how to not go to spam because I've had so many creators run into that. Yeah, I love all the tips. I love the idea of kind of A/B testing different styles of a UGC pitch. Yeah, I really like that. A lot of people, and this kind of goes into the topic of just needing to send more pitches than they think that they need to, etc. But for anyone who feels embarrassed to pitch or like they're afraid of rejection, I see this a lot, and I definitely experienced this in the beginning too, because it feels very vulnerable to like send them a portfolio of your work and like to pitch a brand that you really love, and like the idea of them not responding to you or coming back and just saying no thanks, or the fear of a brand like being rude to you or something like that. Like it happens. And I guess what kind of tips or advice do you have for anyone who might feel that way?
It's such a good point. And again, something that I wasn't aware of how prevalent it is because I'm so used to it coming from a sales background. I think that a lot of creators overthink how big of a deal it is in terms of, even some creators, they get really upset if, for example, they accidentally didn't create a template correctly. And so the brand name doesn't update for every brand that they send an email to, and then they freak out if like they send an email to the wrong brand with the different brand name. It's actually just like not a big deal. Like, trust me, like a brand opens this email, they're going to spend 1 second on it. They're not going to remember you at all. Right. So some people make the mistake of responding back to those emails and saying, I'm so sorry, I accidentally, like that is not the right call. It's like, sweep it under the rug. This brand's not going to remember you. You can repitch to them next week and they won't even remember that you sent them this email, right? Just you as somebody who is in their email all the time, you'll know how many emails do you get a day. You do not pay attention to every single one, right? And if that person sends you another email next week, you probably don't even remember that. So I just think the tips are think about yourself and how many emails you get and how many you do not remember. And I'm sure you're not looking at typos and mistakes in the emails that you're getting. And it's totally fine to email a brand again if they don't get back to you. Like if a brand rejects you today and then in a couple months you have a better portfolio and you have some case studies, you should 100% pitch them again. And a lot of people don't do that because they're afraid, but it's not a big deal. It's just, that's just how business works. It's like you try, it doesn't work out. You might be a better fit in a few months. So you got to try again.
I just think, I'm like, what would a white man do? Because you know how much audacity they have? So much. You know how much they care? Literally, they don't give a fuck. And I'm like,
Absolutely.
what would they do? And I'm
Yeah.
like, we would send 500 of these with 8 typos and be like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, literally.
Exactly.
Sometimes
100%.
like, I care way too much, and that's great. That's beautiful. I love that you care so much. But we gotta like separate ourselves a little bit. Like, you are a business,
Exactly.
and this is just what comes with being a business, and you have to have some rejection therapy.
Exactly. And I mean, a lot of people, they still can't get over the rejection. And I think that's why a lot of people use RBA, because then they don't have to actually do the pitching and they don't actually see the rejection.
No, it's actually so nice.
If you don't want to get rejected, you can use RBA.
No, it's great because you're not overthinking every pitch that you're sending. You're not picking out the brands and being like, oh, like I'm nervous. Like, no, it literally doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
It's great. Are there any pieces of advice or tips that you would give to new creators who maybe they've been in this for, let's say, 1 to 3 months? They're kind of new to the UGC space. Any general tips in terms of getting into cold pitching, getting into this world, common things that you see? Yeah.
So I think something a lot of people don't spend too much time thinking about is building long-term relationships with brands. You know, when I started, I probably did, I don't know, 10 to 20 new brand deals every single month. And then after a few months, what ended up happening was like 50 to 60% of all my brand deals came from repeat partnerships with brands I had already worked with in the past. So what that means is like, I don't need to pitch as much. I don't have to do one-off small deals. I can just re-pitch and resell to my old brand partners. And, you know, for most businesses, that is how to build a more sustainable business, is having retained clients. So I think a lot of people should think about that for every brand that they work with. It's think about, what would this look like if I were to work with this brand over the long period of time? How would I treat this brand? What would I deliver? What would my communication style be? What am I willing to do now in hopes that it becomes a longer term partner? Because I think a lot of people sometimes just think about it as like one transaction. And so sometimes they feel like, well, they underpaid me for this. I don't want to do this. And it's like, if you think that you can turn this into a long-term partner that is going to buy and keep buying for you over a long period of time, it is worth it sometimes. Yep. And so I think it's sometimes just, I would tell a lot of creators to not look at every single interaction with the brand as a single transaction. It's really about, how do you turn this into a long-term partnership? So that's one thing. I don't know. I keep telling everyone this, but it's just like, don't give up so quickly. I just think a lot of people try. I'm sure you see that all the time. People try after a month or two. And I think partially it's because a lot of the content online makes it seem like it's really easy. It makes it seem like, oh, all you have to do is this, and all of a sudden you're making tens of thousands of dollars. But, you know, it's not that easy. And so I think it's maybe setting expectations a bit. It's like, you know, it's not that easy. It takes a lot of time and effort. If you're looking for just a quick get rich scheme, this is probably not for you. You have to enjoy it, and you have to understand that this is building a real business, and what comes with building a real business is a lot of the ups and downs and taking risks and getting rejected and, you know, putting the effort in.
Yeah. I am a girly who loves setting realistic expectations. I always tell people that, and my listeners know I say this almost every episode in one form or another, but UGC is a long game. It is something that you have to stick with, get better at, learn. Like, it is a whole world. It's a business, and you have to stick with it. It's a long game, and it gets easier with time. It's actually kind of a, I guess, sneak peek for anybody listening to this. I'm changing my program a little bit because my UGC Accelerator currently is a 3-month program, and it kind of helps you build your whole UGC business, get started, like learn all the foundations and land like your first few deals. And I'm changing it to a 6-month program because you just need it. Like it is something that really it takes time to build and like get really good at. And I feel like around that 3-month mark is when people start to at least like feel a little bit confident and they're starting to get those deals. And then it's really in those next few months that stuff really starts to take off and they start to build their confidence and they learn negotiation skills. And so it's like when you hit that like 6-month mark, that's when I see a lot of creators really thrive. And so many of my like student interviews and stuff like that are with people who have been doing this now and stuck with it for like 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. And I'm like, that's where the magic happens. And I'm like, UGC is a long game. And I just can't stress that enough.
Yes, completely. I completely agree. I think it just takes time. It's about creating systems. It's just about being consistent. And it's great that they have the support like you, because I think they need a cheerleader like that to tell them like, this is normal, keep going.
Agreed. I was just thinking about our conversation earlier, the thing I wanted to say, and I remembered it. We were talking about reaching back out to brands if like you've pitched them before, maybe you want to reach out again, maybe they responded to your email and they were like, our budget's full right now, maybe reach out in Q4, or can you reach back out at this time? One of the great things about Bento is you can literally put them into a folder. Like there's a category in Bento that's like reach out later, and I use that a lot. So if a brand responds and they're like, hey, can you reach out like closer to the holiday season, I will literally just like add them to the reach out later folder and like put a date or a note that's like, this is what they said. And so then I literally have it in one place and I know to reach back out to them. I have the email contact right there. I have the email of like what was said. So I love that feature about Bento.
So many deals get done by reaching out later. And I think like 99% of creators don't do that. So if you can add, 30 minutes once a week to just go through your reach out later tab and just repitch to brands that didn't have budget or that you sent your rates to and they did not respond to you. A lot of people forget to follow up on those ones too, right? So it's just about sending follow-ups consistently when a brand showed some level of interest to you. Like if they got back to a cold email, there means there's some interest there, whether it's now or later, but you have to put the work in to follow up and check in every several weeks to see if anything's changed on their end. And then especially for big holiday times like Q4 or Black Friday, it's like now is the time to reach out to every partner you've ever worked with and see if there's any opportunities right now. And every quarter, there's like a big holiday season and push that you should be doing that for.
Yes, totally agree. Okay, could you explain to us the different versions of Bento? So if somebody's like, I'm interested in checking out Bento, what kind of different tiers do you have? And like, who are those tiers best for?
Great, yeah. So we basically have 3 tiers. We have a free tier, a pro tier, and then a VA tier. So our free tier, basically anyone can sign up for a free account. And what you get is 20 emails per month. So basically, you can go on our platform, you can set up an email pitch template for free. You can send out 20 emails to any brand you want, and that's what you get on our free tier. Our pro tier, you get 1,000 emails a month, which allows you to obviously scale up your pitching. And that's great for you if you're somebody who is trying to increase your outreach and you are starting to see some response rates from brands and you want to scale that up. Typically, this is for people who have the time and effort to pitch on their own. So they have the time to send hundreds of emails every single month. You can also automate your follow-ups, which a lot of people love on Bento, is just automating your follow-ups. And then our VA tier is our tier where we do it for you. So we'll send your 300 to 400 emails every single month. We'll schedule your follow-ups. We'll actually do the repitching for you as well. So if you don't hear back from a brand that we've pitched to you in the past, every single month we dedicate a portion of your emails to repitch to old brands that never got back to you. So if that's definitely a tier for you if you hate pitching or you don't have the time to pitch, but you know that pitching is required to scale up your business. Our VA tier, we also have a bunch of added benefits that we're always like launching new products for and services for. So, whether it's repitching to old past partners or offering new pitch templates and stuff like that. So that's kind of the tier if you kind of want an all-in-one service to do it all for you.
Yeah, like I said before, I have the VA version. I love it. Question, I guess, logistical question that people probably ask. So, like, let's say they do the pro version, they have 1,000 emails a month. Does that include follow-ups?
Good question. So no, so follow-ups are just on top of that. So you get 1,000 first emails, and then follow-ups are on top of the 1,000.
Amazing. Love that. And then if you have the VA version, let's say they went with the VA version, do they also have those like 1,000 credits where they could go and manually pitch themselves if they wanted to?
Exactly. Yeah. So they get everything in pro plus the 300 automated pitches for you.
Love that. Amazing. Well, I will link all of the kind of links below of the different plans for Bento, info about Bento, and then where can we find you on social media?
Yeah, on our social media, we're mostly on Instagram. It's just @onbento, so ONBENTO. We have a TikTok. I'm trying to get on there, not successful yet, but we also on TikTok, so it's on Bento on TikTok as well.
Love that. And then I guess just looking ahead, is there anything, any features, anything that you're kind of excited about that Bento is working on or recently released or anything like that?
Yeah. So we recently released, just for our VA tier users, this sort of pay data negotiations helper, which basically anyone on the VA tier, they can forward a thread of a negotiations they're currently having with a brand, and we'll pull data on our side to see what rates this brand typically pays. And so this is amazing because I think that a lot of creators complain about this idea that there's just no pay transparency. And like you'll get some creators where a brand will say, we don't do paid. And then that same brand will go pay like $1,000 to this other creator.
Yep.
And so this just sort of evens that playing field in terms of giving more access to data for creators. And so right now this is on our VA tier just because we're still working on like the logistics and how to build this into something more scalable. But it's been so helpful for our users because they'll send me an email. They'll be like, what should I charge? I'll be like, these are the different options. And they'll be like, wait, this was a lot more than I was going to say. And right away, like you're getting paid more by just doing that a little extra check-in with us. So I'm super excited about that. And I'm hoping we can kind of build that at more scale so it can be more accessible to everyone.
Wow, I love that. Yeah, that's a great feature. I will definitely be using that. Amazing. And then I didn't mention this earlier, but I also have an affiliate code for Bento. So I will link that below as well. And you guys can get a little bit of a discount if you want to sign up and try it out. Was there anything else that we didn't cover that you wanted to talk about?
I mean, I'm curious to hear from you if there's anything interesting you've seen about kind of the newer UGC creators that are coming into this space compared to maybe when you first got started. I'm curious to see what you're seeing on your end.
Yeah. It's so different. I mean, I started about 2.5 years ago, and I think just strategy is so different, and the idea of like cold email pitching has just grown so much, whereas I think when I got into it, that wasn't as prevalent, and it was just a lot of like DMing brands on Instagram. And so it's just actually really cool to see like that we actually have systems for this stuff now. Yeah, I think people are like really eager, and I love that about new UGC creators. It's like everyone's eager. They want either like an extra side income or a way to quit their job or travel more. And like that's very much the space that I work in.
Totally.
People who just like want more freedom. And it's just so cool to like be in that space. And I think people are just continually learning and growing. But I feel like the big discrepancy I see is like, I think it was a little easier to get into like 2.5 years ago because there weren't as many UGC creators. And like that's anything, that's any industry. Like if you're at the very beginning, it's just a little bit easier to get into. And so I think there's a lot of like UGC coaches out there who do kind of like sell that story of I started UGC and I made $5,000 in my first month.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I'm not saying that's not true for them. Like it probably was. They're probably like, that's what their reality was. And I think it's just different now. And it's more of a long game. There's more creators in this space. You have to have some more strategy behind it and stick with it. And so I think that's just a big difference that I see in the industry, and kind of like the creators who are successful aren't necessarily the ones that like pop off overnight, but it's the ones who like really stick with it.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I also agree with you. It's probably true a lot of people made a bunch of money early on because, like you said, it's just there was less competition, but it's just a different game now.
Mhm.
And I think that it takes time to build partners like that. But I do also think there are a lot more brands that are getting into UGC.
Agreed.
So I think while there are more UGC creators, there are a lot more brands who are discovering that it's a cheaper way for them to run ad creatives, to experiment. It's cheaper than doing influencer marketing. It's a good way to just run rapid tests. Before they might have had to work with an agency that costed tens of thousands of dollars, and it might have taken months to create ads. But now they can just do it overnight with UGC creators. So I really think that it's a huge opportunity, and more brands that get into it, the more demand there'll be for UGC creators. And the ones who've been in it for long enough and have learned kind of the ins and outs and have improved their content will be the ones that can build like sustaining businesses.
Completely agree. I think people all the time just have this mindset of like, it's too saturated. There's too many creators. I can't get into it. And I'm just like, couldn't be further from the truth. There are
Yeah,
so many brands who need UGC and help with UGC. And like we were talking about, like UGC, a lot of times it's about volume and testing stuff. And these big companies, they've got big ad budgets and they're
totally.
running hundreds of ads like
Yeah,
all the time. And that's totally normal. And they're always looking for new creators. So
yeah,
there is space for you.
totally. Totally.
Well, thank you so much, Jaclyn. This was a very, I just think, great conversation around pitching and emails and all of the things that creators, I think, have a lot of questions about and also kind of insecurities about in the beginning when they're starting. So I hope that you guys found this episode super helpful. I just think this was a great kind of conversation. If people have questions about Bento, questions about kind of anything that we spoke about, how's the best way for them to get in touch with you or someone from your team?
Yeah, just DM us on Instagram. I'm on there like every day. So if you have any questions about Bento, if you need help with anything, just DM us there and I'll get back to you.
Amazing. Okay, well, I'll link everything in the show notes, all the links and the info that you guys need of anything that we discussed in this episode. And yeah, thank you so much, Jaclyn, for coming on the podcast. This is great. If you want to become a UGC creator and get paid to travel, then my UGC Accelerator is for you. Fast track your UGC career with over 40 video trainings, live weekly Q&A calls, and direct access to me as your UGC coach. You'll get personalized feedback, accountability, and a proven 3-month roadmap to start getting paid UGC deals. Plus, an active community of over 100 other creators also on their UGC journeys. Some students have earned over $2,000 in UGC deals within weeks. And I have students like Lene, who quit her nannying job just 4 months after starting the program because of UGC. Or Katie, who's made over $12,000 in her first few months of pitching. Plus, there's a no-brainer guarantee. If you don't make back your investment in the program, I'll give you a full refund. So if you're ready to take UGC seriously, click the link in the description to learn more.